The alien presence on this planet, Stuart, if it exists, probably started a long time ago. We're going to spend some time this hour talking with you about it. What do you think?
Well, that's a very large topic, and in order to explain it, I need to give a little bit of a history lesson.
Okay.
And if we go back to eons of time ago, we find out that the solar system as it exists today is not the way it used to be. In fact, Earth used to be the second planet in orbit from the sun, and it was basically covered in water. Even the atmosphere was very liquidy. Mars was the third planet, and then there was a larger planet which is called Maldek, which existed between what is now Mars and Jupiter. And then after Jupiter was Saturn, then Uranus, Neptune, and that was it. Pluto did not exist. And then I need to go to another part of the galaxy, to a place called the Lyrian star system.
Okay. How far? How many light years?
Oh, gosh, I have no idea, but it's towards the center of the galaxy.
Okay.
The Lyrian star system, for all intents and purposes, is where humanity began. That is the home area of all of humanity. There was also a star system called the Draco star system, and that was basically a reptilian empire. And the reptilians have a mindset where they feel an obligation to seek out and destroy or assimilate all other creatures or species, because they feel the reptilian life form is the most perfect representation of God or God mind. And the reason that they feel that way is because reptilians in the Draco star system are androgynous, meaning male and female in the same body. And so they feel that most closely represents the neutral God mind or God energy. Also, reptilian DNA does not change over eons of time. It basically stays the same and does not alter, whereas mammalian DNA constantly changes and adapts as environments change. And so they feel that because reptilians are so stable in genetics, it proves that they're superior. And again, I'm not qualifying this by saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's how they think. And so they attacked the Lyrian star system and basically dispersed any of the survivors that were in there. And the survivors of the Lyrian star system fanned out across the known galaxy and colonized other solar systems, this one included. When they came here, the planet Mars and the planet Maldek had atmosphere, oceans. It was a very inhabitable environment, and they started colonies there. The reptilian Dracos followed them across the various colonies and attacked them. The Draco use hollowed-out asteroids or comets as weapons and vehicles that they then send into space. And what they did was send an ice comet into our solar system to attack and destroy the colonies. As that ice comet came into the system, it caused the planet Uranus to flip on its axis. Uranus is the only planet known that orbits in a north to south direction instead of an east to west as all other planets do, and that's because it was knocked off of its original axis. It then continued towards in the solar system and approached the planet Maldek, and the pressure or the gravitational pull of the ice comet, planet Maldek, and the large gas planet Jupiter caused the Maldek to explode, which is why we have the asteroid belt now between Mars and Jupiter.
Okay.
And a lot of the fragments of Maldek became the many moons of Jupiter and Saturn as they get caught up in the gravitational fields. And in fact, the rings of Saturn recently have been exposed as being pieces of ice and rock, which could have come from Maldek and the ice comet.
So it must have been a pretty good-sized planet, Stuart.
It was a very fair-size comet, and Maldek was a very large planet. I would say it was somewhere between the size of Mars and Jupiter. And then, as the comet approached Mars, it pulled a lot of the atmosphere off of Mars and a lot of the oceans off of Mars, and then finally went into an orbit with the planet Earth. and it went into this rotation with the Earth so that the oceans on Earth started to polarize, and the spinning of the Earth started to form the ice caps, and eventually the Earth and this ice comet switched places so that the ice comet became the second object in the orbit of the Sun, and the Earth was pushed out to third position. The ice comet became the planet Venus as we know it now.
All right, and this was very similar to what Velikovsky believes, right?
Well, that's true. His theory was very, very, very correct for the most part. Now, because the planet Venus, or the ice comet, was so close to the Sun, it caused the ice to melt, but rapidly to the point where it became steam and vapor, which is why Venus is covering clouds.
Okay.
And now the Earth, being pushed out into the third position, now became very inhabitable. Land masses appeared, and the Draco drove another vehicle into orbit of this planet to colonize it, and we now call that object the Moon. The Moon, as you know, does not spin in space as other natural objects.
Are you saying the Moon is artificial, or it's natural, but it was pushed there?
It was a hollowed-out object, a natural object that was driven into orbit around the Earth.
All right.
So it was a vehicle that was of a natural origin.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's why only one side of the Moon faces the Earth at all times. It doesn't spin. It's like a vehicle parked in space, which is basically what it is. And if you send a sonic resonance off the surface of the Moon, it pings like a hollow object. It does not thump like a solid object.
I've heard that. That's true.
Yes, and even now, we're starting to get a little bit of information. They're saying, well, there's a little bit of an atmosphere on the Moon. There's a little bit of water on the Moon. And Mars used to have oceans, and they're starting to just reveal some information that I've been talking about for years, which is basically verifying everything that I've been telling people all these decades.
That's a remarkable story, and, there have been glimpses of this. Are you familiar at all, Stuart, with the work of Zecharia Sitchin?
Yes, of course.
Now, where does his work come in terms of that planet that comes here, Nibiru? You didn't mention that.
Yes, you see, here's the other thing. That Nibiru, which is also in some cultures called Marduk, this is also an artificial object which has an elliptical orbit in space. It is controlled by another type of reptilian being. It is not the Draco, but it's actually a different species.
The Anunnaki, he said, right?
Yes, and what we learned at Montauk was that group was actually enemies of the Draco, and that they were antagonistic towards each other. Now, interestingly enough, back in 1999, I believe it was in LA Times and possibly also in the New York Times, there was an article stating that a large object NASA had detected past the orbit of Pluto in an elliptical orbit around our sun, and that we can expect to see that object come closer to the Earth around the year 2003. That was back in 1999. And as usual, when the New World Order government sends out information that they want people to know, they send it out in a little blip like that, and then you never see it again. And that's kind of their legal out, that they told you everything and that it wasn't a surprise.
Now, where did this information come to you? How?
Well, when we worked in Montauk, those 13 years that I was there was a lot of indoctrination. We were basically told that what we were doing was for the good of the Earth, that humanity was not intelligent enough to control itself, that if people were left to their own device, they would pretty much destroy the planet. And so it was an obligation of this New World Order to control things, to ensure that our people continued and survived. They gave us these pieces of history and information that were to encourage us also to continue the work. But remember that what we were trying to do, or what they made us do and what they turned me into, is that they were trying to create a person who could see into other realities without the use of a device. And in that mode, they recalibrated the way the brain perceived realities. I was physically blind for 29 years. I could not see physical reality the way a normal person could see. I could only see energy fields, colors, and symbols, etc., which is how I do my readings and consultations. And so when we would do our